Y'all ready?
Fish Stripes Live coming at you on a Tuesday evening. Welcome in, everybody. I am Ethan Medowski. Missing a couple of the usual suspects. Kevin will be along later. Alex Carver is out in Jupiter watching Trevor Rogers absolutely dominate as he works back from the bereavement list. Trevor has been down for so long that the Marlins want to get him a couple rehab starts, you could call them, just to get him built up and everything. And I just saw that he's pitching into the fourth inning now. He's thrown 40 pitches so far. 31 of them have been for strikes. He's got 3 Ks as well. So he is pitching efficiently, pitching well. It's pretty hilarious what's going on there. But, that's what happens when you have a star like Trevor pitching against low-A competition. But we'll get to what's going on down on the farm as well, because there's been a lot of good stuff to go over recently. We'll get to the biggest story of the Marlins, possibly the Marlins season so far in a second, definitely the back end of this season. But before we get there, and nobody say what it is because we got to keep people around for a little while. But before we get there, let's talk about what happened this past weekend. Just an ultimately just disastrous weekend for the Marlins. They lose 4 in a row to the Reds. They get swept right out of Cincinnati. 7 in a row now. They've lost. They went winless last week. It's just they're dragging through the dog days right now, getting closer to September when you might start seeing some of the younger guys. But an 0-7 week, Isaac, it was just one of the tougher weeks we've had to endure this season so far.
Yeah, it was tough. I wish, I paid a little more attention to it this weekend. But, other than the Sandy start, I didn't watch too many of the games in Cincinnati. All I know is that they beat us at our own game. A couple of the highlights were the Jazz Chisholm rocket of a home run. Yeah. But other than that, Sandy's incredible performance was really encouraging, throwing 100 miles an hour on his 111th pitch of the game, which, very encouraging as well. And other than that, going 0-7 in a week is pretty impressive in the wrong way, but tough series for sure.
Well, at least it's not the 0-18 that the Orioles are on right now. I think something like that. Wow. So hopefully the Marlins, it doesn't get that bad for them. But I mean, 0-7 is bad enough, especially it's just the way it looked, not really competitive in any of the games. They were clawing back from behind late in some of the games. Like you said, Jazz has that home run that kind of puts, a charge into them late, but nothing doing. And then Sandy, typical, Sandy Alcantara performance, right? I think he only allowed 1 run or something and was absolutely fantastic. It might have been his best start of the year. He almost matches his career high for pitches.
It's starting to bother me that Sandy's normal, like Sandy style start is pitching amazing and then losing.
Well, yeah, that's been the story of the year for Sandy almost. Obviously, we've talked about a lot on these streams how he has that start in St. Louis where he, throws a complete game and then loses because the team, couldn't scratch a run across. But Daniel, for you, what were your kind of takeaways, impressions? Anything positive out of this?
I think the most positive thing coming out of this is what we're getting in September, because it was not pretty over the course of these last 7 games. I was on and off and watching it, especially when you get after maybe 4 losses in a row, then you get to 5. It gets a little more difficult just watching a team like that when you almost expect I don't want to say failure, but just not really great outcomes. The Sandy outing was really the highlight for the Marlins, I would say. Just how great he was and just what happened at the end of it. You expect great starts from Sandy, and then they always end up having a loss. It's always like 7-8 innings pitched, gives up maybe 0 runs, 1 run, but then the Marlins offense will end up doing nothing for the entire game of his start. And it really sucks to see, great pitching like that almost just go to waste, especially these last 7 games.
Well, he goes 7 innings, allows 4 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, strikes out 11. That was a new career high for him. Obviously, 111 pitches. He's now 7-12 on the year, 3.35 ERA, and that's a little inflated because he's had 20 runs allowed in 2 starts. because of that, LA start and that Colorado start. But I mean, other than that, he has just been so tremendous all year. And it's been hard to watch. You feel bad for the guy. And, like you mentioned, Daniel, and, Miguel Rojas talked about after one of the games how the Marlins have to start coming to the ballpark and expecting to win. Not just hoping to win, expecting to win. And nobody expects them to win right now. And Eli, you wrote this article recently about the changes you would make to the roster that could make the Marlins more competitive. And
tear it all down.
I want to get your opinion on just kind of what's going on right now, because like I said, just kind of dragging along through the year, trying to get to the end.
Yeah, well, I mean, not all moves would be created equally. I think the biggest one to me was calling up Edward Cabrera, who I'm sure we're going to get to. I think out of all the players, in my mind, there was 7 guys I'd like to see at AAA up in the majors, and he was the one top of mind. Obviously, he's the number 1 prospect in the organization, and I just felt he was totally ready for this opportunity. So to see him squeezed into this pitching staff is encouraging, but it's almost as much on the position player side too. I mean, we're all complaining about them not scoring runs, and not to point fingers at people, but I'll point fingers at people like Jorge Alfaro playing as much as he is. The fact that there's a roster spot for Magneuris Sierra to give 3 at-bats a week. Who is the other one that I had in mind?
I haven't seen Magneuris Sierra. When was the last time? I feel like I haven't seen the guy. When was the last time he even played?
So Jorge Alfaro's been taking his at-bats.
Right. But both of those guys, they're in the same boat though, and they're in the same boat as even a few of the pitchers where they're out of options. You're pretty sure they're not going to be on the 40-man roster beyond this offseason. And you have other guys in AAA that some that you feel really high on, like Lewin Diaz, others that are kind of fringy but deserve a closer look, like Ryan Miller or Monte Harrison. And to me, it's just a no-brainer. If you're really focused on the future of the organization, to make some of those changes right now, especially in the case that some of these guys are frankly so limited in their ability that they might clear waivers and actually stay in the organization. You could have your new guys and keep the old ones around too, because that's how far they've fallen. It's so there's no coherent vision as to what they're doing right now at all. Even in-game strategy too. That's a whole different topic about how a lot of these games, it doesn't seem like Mattingly cares at all about winning. Sometimes he makes moves and he justifies them by the starting lineups, justifying it by saying this gives us our best chance to win. It's so inconsistent, and it's to anybody, it's got to be really disappointing. You cannot come up with a more disappointing stretch at the end where they're losing every single game, and you don't even understand why they're putting the team together the way that they are. That anything could be better, and they should be trying to do different things to begin with.
Yeah, well, that was a lot to take in, definitely, and it's a sad reality of where the Marlins are kind of at right now, where Kevin, you are glowing over in that corner, man. Welcome into the show right now. You are absolutely glowing in that light.
That Miami sun on a white shirt.
But it is the sad reality of where the Marlins are at right now, right? Which is they're just throwing it. You're right, Eli. It seems like they're just kind of throwing lineups together day by day. I don't know who's making the lineup. I'm not sure. Sometimes in organizations that stuff comes from higher up the ladder, and I don't know if it's Mattingly, if it's somebody higher up, but something's got to change because as much as these games don't matter, and they really don't matter, so I try not to get too involved in the result and upset about the results and stuff, but you still want to put a competitive product on the field. If you're going to be playing baseball games, you want to at least look competitive and give yourselves a chance to win games. And right now, when you have Sandy Leon and Jorge Alfaro and Magneuris Sierra and some of these guys that you're throwing out there in these lineups, even Alex Jackson has really struggled. His at-bats don't look great. And so when you're rolling out there with 5-6 man lineups, how can you possibly be competitive? How can you possibly win any ball games, when 3 to 4 of your players in your lineup are guaranteed outs? And, it's tough, man. And Isaac, I know you've got a lot to say on this, so I'm going to let you go here, man, because this has been a hot topic that we've been talking about a lot together. So I'm curious, what your thoughts are.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a long one, this one. So this is Lewin Diaz, right? We all know who he is. Now, I don't understand the reason as to why he's not up here by any stretch of me. This is a guy who they consider the first baseman of the future, correct? And
Absolutely.
I understand, right? And there was a time where Craig Mish actually considered Lewin Diaz a top prospect in the organization. So he's very highly touted. Now I understand we have Jesus Aguilar at first base, and you can't just bench him because one, he needs at bats, and two, it's just rude. So I don't understand why there's such a dilemma in moving position players to go play third base. Like Aguilar could play third base, for example. This is what we've done this year. Jorge Alfaro has played left field and first base. Brian Anderson has played right field a couple years ago. Jesus Aguilar actually played third base in a very tight game. That was a 2-run game into Philadelphia. Cody Poteet has pinch hit. We had a 2-man bench at one point. Adam Duvall has playing center field. And so you're not scared of doing these blasphemous, crazy things with your roster construction. Why does it stop here with not having Lewin Diaz up here? You need to see him in August and September. If you have him just in September, you can't put too much value on those stats because it's September. Remember who had a great September was Peter O'Brien. How did that turn out? So
Eli's favorite.
Yeah, Peter O'Brien, and he lost a job in spring training right away. So I don't understand why they didn't wait till right after the trade deadline to call him up. They chose not to, and now we're going to see him in September, which, let me remind you, it's also going to be the same issue. You're not going to have any open first base that play him. So I don't know why they wouldn't just, change it as soon as the deadline was over. But, that's just my opinion on it. I think it's crazy that he's not up here. They need to see what he has, and we're not going to see it.
This one's really tough for me because, I'm understand, they want to play Aguilar every day. And like I said, they have to put competitive lineups out there. And a lineup without Aguilar, like we see tonight, is so much less competitive than a lineup with Aguilar.
Well,
right?
you say
what I mean?
You say they want to. You say they want to play Aguilar every day, but they're not.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
He's getting days off, and Alfaro's playing at first, and Alfaro sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, Noah, but obviously in today's major leagues, like no player plays 162 games, right? That doesn't happen. No player plays 155, really.
He's getting a couple days off a week.
Yeah, and everybody's going to get a day off a week or so. You know what I mean? But I don't know if it's right to have.
Then you cannot play him if you have a good enough bat or good enough fielder to replace him, not with a catcher that's playing first.
Sure, of course you would rather.
Or sometimes playing catcher and can't even play the position he's supposed to play.
Of course you would rather him, Lewin play over Alfaro at first base, right? But if there's one Aguilar off day built into the week, that's not fair to Lewin.
Move Aguilar to third base.
You got to be competitive too, man. Nobody wants to watch Aguilar at third base for 9 innings.
I'll watch Aguilar any day.
Straight innings at third base, man. Like, you can't play him over there. I just don't.
I don't know.
The
craziest thing they've done all year. We're watching Alfaro play left field every single day. Why can't we watch Aguilar at third base?
He's not playing left field every single day. He's playing left field every once in a while. Look, man, I'm ready for Alfaro to go as much as anybody else, okay? I just think there's another way to get him out of here without having to move Aguilar to third. I don't want to see Aguilar play third base.
It should be something as simple as just DFA him and bring up Peyton Henry, who's actually a catcher in AAA, who's doing pretty good for himself right now.
I think the time has. I think you're right, Kev. Like, I think the time is now to just cut ties. We've talked about before how the next step that the Marlins organization has to take is they just got to get relentless. They just got to get rid of these guys. Some of these guys that are just meddling around here. Eli mentioned it. Sierra, Leon, Alfaro, why are you hanging on to these guys when they're not providing any value to you? None of them are probably going to be on your team next year. Leon's definitely not on the team next year. Sierra's probably not on the team next year. All accounts are that Alfaro's not going to be on the team next year. I don't think he has any real trade value. So I don't think that, trying to force defensive versatility on him is going to make anybody want to trade for him. But my thing is, I've really kind of understood. Okay, if you bring Lewin up, you got to play him at least 3 days a week, right?
At least
4. You would want him to play the 4 days a week, where Aguilar plays 3 days a week. But you're taking that competitive bat out of the lineup, which is why it all kind of goes back to the fact that the Marlins kind of got screwed by by the no DH. And we've had, this discussion has been going on all year, right? It was going on with Garrett Cooper early in the year and with Aguilar now, where if there was a DH, Lewin Diaz would have been here at the trade deadline.
Correct.
The second they traded Duvall or Marte or whoever, Aguilar slides into that DH spot, right? And Lewin is your everyday first baseman, like we all think he's going to be for the future. And then next year, like we all think Aguilar's going to be the DH and Lewin's going to play first.
Yeah, but we can't think of it. We can't just keep like blaming it on the DH, because the reality is that 2022 is the year. It's like 2022, you're fucked. And they need to know what Lewin is. And you're not going to get such a great read in just September. They needed to figure something out. I know as crazy as it is to put Aguilar third base, you have to do it. You need to see what this guy is. You have to. And they haven't done it. And it's just whack. They've done way crazier bullshit than that. And it's irking me heavily that they still haven't done it.
Well, the next thing is, in terms of this discussion, this roster construction discussion is, this rosters don't expand to 40 anymore in September. They only expand to 28. So you only get 2 more guys now. So one of them is definitely going to be Lewin. There's no way they don't call up Lewin.
Who knows?
September. And it would, crazier things have happened.
Now
but
that there's no way, that would be totally really,
that would just be completely brain dead, right? And then the other one is most likely Brigman. That's what we're all kind of going with here. And then, the pitchers will come and they'll figure out, maybe they get Eval to look or whatever, some of these other guys. But if they, man, I just don't know. I just, I don't think any of them want to watch Aguilar play third base, 3 days a week or however it is. And, then you got to put Anderson back out in right field, and he hasn't played right field in a while. And then that takes away, then what do you do with De La Cruz and Sanchez? And
no, Brinson just won't be getting the at bat.
Yeah, then just move, play De La Cruz in center and Jesus in left. But yeah, it's at this point, I get it. Like at this point, right? The season is so over. They just went 0-7 in a week. The season's so over that it's just like, just go all in, just completely, just cut the ties. Get crazy with it. Play Aguilar at third base. I see that viewpoint, Isaac, definitely, and it makes a lot of sense. But I mean, Daniel, you have any thoughts here?
I just gotta go with Isaac. Like, this is over. This has been done. This is over even before we went 0-7. I just can't wait to see next year. This started Sixto gone, trading Marte, but not really trading Marte, but seeing what we got for Marte and how it's been going ever since that trade. It just has not been the best season at all. Just, I don't even know what to say. Like, Lewin's still in there, and the minors, Bryson Brigman's still there. It's the season from hell. If there was a title for this season, it's the season from hell.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I've said that a lot. It's season from hell. It's just been, they've had nothing go their way, really. They couldn't even work it out with Marte. They couldn't. No bounces went their way. Jazz has been knocked around, and the maybe the best positives have been Jazz looking good, Jesus looking good, Brian De La Cruz has been a huge positive, but they've just had nothing go their way, man. And I mean, Noah, you come in here with the fan perspective, it's exhausting, right? And it feels like it's been this way forever.
It's painful. It really is. I try so hard to be optimistic with this team, but you can't lose 7 in a row.
Yeah.
You can't lose 7 in a row. You can't have your starter absolutely shove and lose the game. You can't do that.
It's happened too often, man.
That team is not going anywhere if that keeps happening. You can't have Sandy going out there and pitching like his life depends on it, and you not supporting him. It's not fair. It's not fair to him. It's not fair to the fans. It's not fair to the team. It's not fair to anybody.
Yeah.
Do something.
Yeah.
Do something.
That's a pretty good, and while we're here, and this is on the screen, Trevor, great rehab start. That's a huge positive for the Marlins. I know Pablo pitched really well in his rehab start as well. So, I mean, the pitchers were going great, right? And then all these injuries happened, but now you're getting these pitchers back a little bit. And, Danilo in the comments, I kind of want to talk about, I don't think this comment, if you can put it back up, Eli, I don't think this gets any better next year. we'll start talking about next year as we get into September. I think these streams are going to kind of turn into preview streams. We're hoping to have some guests that'll help us preview what next year looks like. But the Marlins, something has to change. Something has to change. And this, this end of the season, like I can't imagine Derek Jeter, the captain, Mr. November, is sitting in his office right now being like, yeah, I'm okay with this. We can run this back next year. You know what I mean? I do think they'll make changes in the offseason. Depending on how big the changes are, they have to really go all in, right? They have to cut ties with
signings. Like, even
I would have to take a look at.
I see Corey Seager a lot, Correa. But
I would have to take a look at the market, but we don't know that they're going to throw that money out there.
I don't think you have to necessarily look at the market. You need to look at your own organization and the guys that are knocking on the door. Mm-hmm. To be called up, Bryson Brigman, JJ Bleday, maybe the Griffin Conine you could even have next year, maybe. Like the dude is absolutely smashing at AA.
Yeah, he is.
Let him try it.
There's too many strikeout concerns, right? And we can talk about Griff because obviously I put
how many guys at the big league? How many guys at the big league level, dudes? Everybody talk about that's hitting 1 million home runs and also has a bunch of strikeouts, but nobody cares about those strikeouts because they're killing the ball.
But they're not striking out at a 40% clip in AA, right? Like there's a difference. Right. So if you're striking out at 40% in AA, you're striking out at 35% in high A. What are you going to be doing in the major leagues? That's the concern, right? It's not about, obviously he can hit the ball far. He can hit for average. He hit in the 280s or 270s in Beloit, despite all the strikeouts. But, to be a major league quality hitter, he has to cut down these strikeouts to be at, in the major leagues. And obviously there's, it's a different style of game and, having a high K rate can play, but not at that level. You know what I mean? And obviously,
let me represent the viewpoint of our scheduled guest for the show was Arm Layden, and we'll see whether he comes up or not. But, he's pretty close with Griffin. And the one thing that he really emphasizes is just how often Conine also walks and gets hit by pitches and how that offsets a lot of the strikeouts. He is like at the top tier of the 3 true outcomes guys where it is an unmanageable rate to me. Like I'm still really skeptical of him doing much of anything in the majors at this current state. But what it is worth noting is that because of his presence in the batter's box, he does draw a whole lot of walks, meaning that even if you think there's going to be some slumps where he can't get his bat on the ball against high level pitching, he's still going to get on base by simply drawing those walks at like a 12%, 15% clip. So that's like part of the equation. To me, like Peyton Burdick is the version of him that is a lot more refined and closer to being big league ready. So when you're talking about those outfielders that we're so excited about, Burdick is one that maybe they could squeeze in as a September call up, but I don't know if the fit really makes a whole lot of sense at the moment. But he's the one that would be kind of at the top of that list, the guys that get pushed up. For Conine and for Bleday, those guys are definitely decisions for next year.
Yeah, well, I think, definitely Bleday, and I mean, definitely Conine and probably Bleday are going to have to repeat AA after the struggles that Bleday has had this year. Burdick, 16.4% walk rate, 29.9% K rate, 135 weighted runs created plus, 849 OPS, but he's only hitting 232. I mean, the fact that he's putting up those kinds of numbers and only hitting 232 is outstanding, but obviously you want to see the ball land for him more and get that average up, especially against AA pitching. But nobody's really hitting well in AA this year, which is why I think you got to kind of take a lot of it with a grain of salt. AA is a really tough level. Guys like Bleday and Burdick had a year off, and Conine as well had a year off, and then they come up to AA where this is the best level of pitching in the entire minor league, so it's really difficult on them. But so there's the things to take with a grain of salt there. But getting back to the overarching discussion, which is just kind of how do they get better next year? Obviously, yes, we think that Brigman is an upgrade from some of the guys on the roster right now. We think Burdick could be an upgrade from some of the guys on the roster right now. But are these guys that are really going to push the Marlins into playoff contention? I don't know about that. Corey Seager, these guys that have been mentioned, they're probably out of the Marlins price range unless we see something from unless we, all of a sudden see something that we haven't seen from them before, right?
Unless they start to care.
Unless they start to throw money at the team, which, I don't know Bruce Sherman's finances, but he hasn't shown the propensity to spend a lot of big money, and the signings that they've had, Corey Dickerson, some of the the guys that they spent bigger money on haven't really worked out, and so it might make the guy a little more reluctant to throw big money at a big name. But the Marlins obviously have to make significant improvements, right? And I think trade is the best way to go about this one here. There's not a lot of center fielders on the open market, and center field is that position that everybody wants to see the Marlins upgrade. We've talked about Brian Reynolds. That would, for me, be – hold on. I think I have to sneeze, but I can't tell. Yep. Brian Reynolds would be the big one for me, where I think that's the one everybody kind of wants to see, right? Is the Marlins go make a play for him and use some of their, prospect capital for him. But Kevin, welcome in, first of all, our star of the Coral Reef Marching Band. Welcome in. Good to have you. Good to see you. Good to talk to you. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Peter, for saying bless you. Thank you very much. But Kev, we kind of been talking about the dragging on that this season has been, and how it's just been dragging the last couple of weeks, and then kind of going forward, looking to improve the roster. Some of the roster construction problems we have, the likes of the Alfaro stuff and the Sandy Leon and the Magner Sierras of this roster. So just kind of put a bow on it for us, man. Put a bow on it for us. Give us one of your good old Kevin rants or something. Put a bow on this, because I want to talk about the positives, because there's a big positive coming forward in this series, and I want to get to that. So go ahead, Kevin.
First, I just want this season to end, man. I want 2022 to come up, because I'm tired of 2021 already with this team, man. And there's a lot of players on that minor league system, mainly AAA, that I do think should rise up to that occasion, and just for this season. Not that they're going to all of a sudden playoff contention next season. No, Bregman is for sure the guy who has to come up. September call-ups, he's the first name I think we should mention. Lewin's another one. I know you guys were having a heated discussion on Lewin there. I was like, it was cutting off, so I didn't really know. But I know Isaac talked about Aguilar at third. Not a bad idea if you try not to win games like Mattingly's kind of doing right now. But yeah, I mean, there's so many names you could call up in AAA. AA, I don't see Blade really rising. It's gonna be very hard to see him up into the MLB. I just don't see it. He's had an up and down year. Conan is kind of like Stanton, I'm gonna say. Strikes out a lot, but hits bombs. It's a good comparison. I would say him to myself, but it's one of those I don't know what Marlins fans want to hear. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to September calls, just make the right calls, make the right moves. We're going to talk about Eddie Cabrera in a bit, but that was one of the right moves that the Marlins made that they have to make. So, and then Alfaro, get the hell out of here. Mags, get the hell out of here. Isan, get the hell out of here. I mean, who else can we say? Sandy Leon, get the hell out of here. I mean, these guys have to go. You could call up Peyton Henry, who I think we all want to see in a way. Let's just do it, man. Just call up the right guys. Make September call-ups a point of joy for the Marlins fans, man. That's all I ask.
All right, Danilo, welcome in here. Thank you very much, Kevin. That was tremendous. Danilo, welcome in here. I want to let you defend yourself here. So obviously, I kind of said there's no way they don't improve, but what do you see as the flaw that you don't see it getting any better in 2022?
Thanks, guys. I was my mind talking about today. I mean, if you look at the way that the lineup is constructed,
need you to speak up a little. Yeah, you got to speak up a little.
Oh, sorry about that.
No problem.
It's very pitching heavy, and there's no impact match ready to take the next step. We have guys on each of the day who took a step back this year. We have David Diaz, who everyone's a fan of, but when he has been up, he hasn't really done much. So it's you either trade from your negative roster guys like Pablo, or you trade from your position of strength. There's only so many pitchers you can get. There's only so many pitchers you can trade away to get an impact back. You can only trade 2 or 3 pitchers before you run out of players to trade to improve the offense.
Yeah, I've said before that you only have a pitching surplus until you trade it all away, right? So you got to keep some of these guys around. Obviously, I think the 3 that everybody would like to see stick around the most are at the major league level. With the big three, a lot of people have floated Pablo's name out there. So then you get into nobody wants to trade Eddie Cabrera, right? Nobody really wants to trade Max Meyer. I think we all kind of had our mixed opinions on the Meyer Brandon Marsh trade, and boy, oh boy, if Marlins fans were watching Brandon Marsh struggle the way he is right now in a Marlins uniform, I can only imagine what that reaction would be like. But yeah, no, I agree, Danilo, in the fact that you can only trade so much, but the Marlins have a lot of valuable pieces, and they have a lot of interest from outside clubs because they have a very talented farm system. 7 top 100 prospects. They have the most top 100 prospects in all of baseball. It's the most they've ever had. No, they have 7. No, and then 6 is the next.
Sanchez
graduated. He just graduated. Okay, so now they're down to 6, which I think is tied with somebody else. I can't remember who the other one is. But anyway, yes, they're that is going to be where the improvements come from, and we'll see what they do. But I want to go forward here because, like I said, I want to get on to the positive because there's a huge positive that came out yesterday. It was very exciting news. I walked into my favorite restaurant, Miapa, and I saw the video of Eddie getting the call, and this is what we've all been waiting for, right? I said there's been nothing that Marlins fans have been more excited for all year than seeing Edward Cabrera. We've been pushing this for months now, his major league debut. And Kim Ang, was asked about this a while back when I was, at a game, and she was doing a press conference a while back, and she said, when he's here, we want him to stay. So, none of this Braxton Garrett, Nick Neidert stuff won't be happening. He's here. He's pitching the rest of the season in the major leagues. And that's great for the Marlins. First of all, they need something to get the fans excited, which is why the timing of this one was so good. Coming off of an 0-7 week, they need something to kind of get some juice back into the fan base, get some life back into it. They bring up Edward Cabrera. It's a great move. I wrote about that in an article. It's just perfect timing for the Marlins. The other thing is, you need another guy to eat innings. I think they have 5 starters finally, right? Pablo. Well, not Pablo yet. Sandy, Thompson, Eddie, Luzardo, and I guess they still have one. And
Eliezer.
So they've got 5 now. So you finally have guys that are going to chew up innings. Then you have Rogers coming back, and you have Pablo coming back as well, which we'll probably see Luzardo and Thompson either bump to the bullpen, or maybe Luzardo goes back to AAA, whatever the case may be. So, guys, finally, the Marlins have 5 starters. I think this is the first time all year that the Marlins have had 5 starters. And it's this, or they just had 5 in a row where they finally had no TBAs like a week or 2 ago. But really now the rotation is getting set in stone because Rogers is going to come back. Pablo is going to come back. You're going to have Sandy, Rogers, Pablo, Eliezer, and Cabrera. So, Isaac, let me go to you here, man. Just first of all, how exciting is Edward Cabrera coming up to the major leagues?
Oh, no, I'm very excited for this kid, man. I think, we've all been told that he could be as good as Sixto or Sandy, or if not, a lot of evaluators have said that he might be better than either of those 2 pitchers. So I'm very excited to see him, his 6'5" frame with a sinker that goes 100 miles an hour, 50% ground ball rate. I'm actually really excited to see him. And I think that this rotation, in September, you might see a good 4/5 of what your starting rotation could be next year. So that's why September is going to be fun. It's going to be him. It's going to be Edward Cabrera, Pablo Lopez, Sandy Alcantara, Trevor Rogers, and you'd hope that Sixto's ready to return, and then you have a bunch more. You have Cody Boteed, Zach Thompson, Jesus Luzardo, a lot of the other guys that you either trade or you bump to the bullpen. So this pitching staff is absolutely pounding. It's crazy. So I'm very excited to see his debut tomorrow.
So yeah, he'll pitch tomorrow against the Nationals. He's making his debut against the same team that Sixto Sanchez made his debut against. 65 grade fastball, 60 grade slider, 55 grade changeup. He's got a curveball that he mixes in as well. 50 control, overall 55 according to MLB Pipeline. And of course, if you play MLB The Show, you know about his card and how dominant that thing
My
is.
ace, bro.
Yeah, he is absolutely stunning when you play with that card. So, Daniel, I'm going to go to you here, man. Just what it means for the Marlins to finally have 5 starters locked in, and especially with the 2 guys coming back from rehab.
I think now this is the point where maybe Marlins fans are now excited to go to the park, excited to actually see this team, except for the last 7 games. Seeing Eddie Cabrera come back there, it just really brings a lot of hope for next season, especially when you have Sixto back and just a whole bunch of guys coming back. And now we're going to see Sandy and Pablo and Trevor. It brings a little bit of hope to what has been just a horrible season, and to see Eddie especially get this chemistry with some of these guys in the rotation, and now having 5 guys instead of 4, then having Detweiler start, or I don't even know, Dylan Flora or whoever it may be coming from the bullpen. It's good to see 5 starters, 5 guys who could eat up innings rather than just having an opener.
Danilo, you're at the game. You're there. What did Mattingly say pregame? I'm sure he was asked about it.
Yeah, so he said that Edward Cabrera is much like Trevor Rogers' sip of coffee in the big leagues last year. Last year, Trevor Rogers made 6 or 7 starts, and we're expecting Eddie to make about the same. So when he comes into 2022, he should be somewhat better prepared to handle major league ball players. But it's interesting enough just to kind of hear him talk, how positive he is about being in the business. It wasn't something that he expected. As we all saw in the video, it caught him by surprise. But he's really excited to show the fans, show the Marlins what they can do. Him and Sixto have a very close friendship. They have matching tattoos. He was saying this in the game. And he called Sixto, and Sixto kind of reminded him, when you're up there, just do you. It's the same game you grew up playing. Don't let it kind of take over you. Just play your game and pitch to your strengths. And that's something that we should see tomorrow. As all of you have said, as has been shared by many prospect experts, he's expected to be, or some people believe that he's better than Sixto. But he is perhaps Marlins' best prospect caught up this season. And there's huge expectations for him. And he seems like he's ready to take them on and just make his debut tomorrow. Hopefully get the Marlins a W and continue what could be a great career. And we'll see the 75 that the Marlins can put together next year when they all should be healthy. And hopefully Sixto, Edward, Trevor, Sandy, and Pablo, and who knows, maybe something happens in the offseason. That's top 5 that can take anyone.
Yeah, it's just a nasty pitching rotation. And you talk about, what we kind of all think will be the top 3, right? With Sandy, Edward, and Sixto, all Dominicans. So some Platino power coming into that, top end of the rotation. And all of them are very similar pitchers. I mean, all of them, throw big, hard fastballs, big, hard sinkers, big, hard changeups. Cabrera is going to run his changeup just up to 94, 95, just like Sandy does. 100 miles an hour coming at the fastball. I mean, these guys are just so fantastic, and the stuff is so nasty. And when you have those 3 guys coming at you, boom, 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 in a series, which will probably happen at some point next year, if all goes according to plan, I mean, that is just filthy. And so it's just awesome. It's awesome. And I think,
it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to watch.
People don't really realize, Eli loves that video so much. People don't really realize, I think, how exciting this is, because Eddie rocketed up so fast, right? So, the Marlins acquired Sixto, and he was a top 50 prospect in baseball already, and he was the headliner in the JT Realmuto trade, and everybody was just waiting for him. Eddie kind of slowly came up. He's been in this organization since 2015. He's one of the him and Braxton Garrett, I was looking at the top 30 list. Him and Braxton Garrett are the only 2 players on the top 30 list that were acquired by the last regime. So, he's been here for a while, and he really just rocketed up boards in the last year and a half or so. So, I think it's kind of catching people off guard with just how exciting this is. And I think, there was so much anticipation for Sixto, and there's a lot of anticipation for Eddie. Maybe it's because, Sixto came in while the Marlins were in contention. This is coming while they're out of it. But I feel like people should be way more excited. And Noah, as the fan that's searching for something to be excited about, as we all know you are right now. I mean, how much, obviously this gives you something, but, what are your thoughts here, man?
I can't wait to see him pitch tomorrow. I'm hopefully I'm gonna be there in person. Depends on how my knee is feeling. But I couldn't be happier to finally see one of the guys that we've been waiting for to come up. And I'm even more excited because he's one of the guys that we didn't trade for, that we brought up from the beginning.
Yeah.
I love when organizations hang on to their great guys. I can't stand when guys like are starting to hit their peak and they get traded away.
Yeah, I mean, look at I'm trying to think like in the top 5. Well, these are a lot of draft picks for the Marlins here in this top 10, and a lot of draft picks and a lot of IFA signings is what I'm looking at. Obviously, Sixto was acquired in a trade, but so many of the guys that we've talked about for so long with the Marlins, you're right, Noah, have been from the Yelich trade, from the Stanton trade, from the Ozuna trade, from whatever trades they've made. The Pablo came over in the David Phelps trade. I think it was either him or D Gordon with the Mariners. So all of these guys have been trades.
We just got Luzardo.
Luzardo from a trade, right? But
De La Cruz.
IFA signing in 2015. It's pretty crazy. And it's pretty exciting. Just what's going on. So Kev, let's start going here and start previewing the series a little bit as the Nats come to town for 3 games. The struggling Nationals, who, the Marlins, look, they got to find a way to finish over this team, because this team is really terrible. I mean, they tore everything down at the deadline.
We have to stop. Time out. We have to stop saying that other teams are terrible, because every time that happens, we get wrecked.
I mean, the Nationals traded their entire roster. You're not wrong, but the Nationals traded Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber, Max Scherzer. The only guys they have left are Ryan Zimmerman, who's a Marlins killer to the end. They even traded John Lester for some just to get him out of there. You know what I mean?
Josh Bell also, or
no,
Bell's still there, and so they traded Josh Harrison as well. So this is a bare bones roster for the Nationals right now. It's basically Juan Soto and a bunch of guys from the YMCA. So Kevin, what is the reasonable expectation for Edward Cabrera tomorrow? Obviously, I think when Luzardo came up, we talked about 5 innings, few runs, but I think people will have higher expectations for Edward Cabrera.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's the Nationals. It's going to be a great game. I can't watch it, sadly. I've worked that day. But, Josiah Gray, one of the top prospects from the Dodgers, came in that trade for Max Scherzer. You're going to see him against Edward Cabrera. But expectations-wise, I'm not going to go the same ones I did with Luzardo. I think I'm going to go 6 innings, at least maybe 1 or 2 runs give up. It's okay. But, man, I would say like 5 or 6 strikeouts would be nice for Eddie Cabrera, man. This guy is coming in against a pretty bad Nationals team. And I'm not going to jinx it, but every time we say that, you know what happens. So, but it's a bad Nationals team. Eddie Cabrera could very much take over this game, maybe even go a Sandy game, and then he loses 1-0. But I mean, it would be nice to see Eddie go as much as he can. I don't think they're going to overwork him too much, especially since it's his first game in the MLB, if I'm correct. So it's going to be interesting, man. It's going to be very fun to watch this matchup. This might be one of those games where I think everyone's going to tune in, because it is going to be a pitcher's duel, that game, for sure.
Yeah, well, I wrote, if you're looking for an excuse to go out and see a Marlins game, like now you got to really
watch that one.
Yeah, this is one to go out to the park for, and Eddie will be a reason to go out to the ballpark every night. Every time that he pitches, and so in Sixto's debut, I guess we should really take a look at this and kind of set the standard. Against Washington, 5 innings, 6 hits, 3 runs. He let up 2 homers in that game and 4 strikeouts. So really looking back on it, it wasn't the best debut, but you saw the stuff, right? And he was like electric. Just the way he was just throwing that heater and that sinker and that changeup, you were like, wow, this guy is electric. And now I'm just realizing how much I missed Sixto Sanchez pitch. So Isaac, go ahead with your reasonable expectation for what you think we should see from what we should expect from Eddie tomorrow.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to put, some expectation for like a final line or anything, but I think what you want to see translate to the big leagues is the strikeouts. I think you want to see him, be able to miss some bats up here. He's not going up against the toughest lineup in the world, so just to see strikeouts. And I think you want to look at the walks as well, make sure he doesn't put too many guys on base, because, major leaguers, they're going to hit, they're going to hit you anyway. But you want to think that, the strikeouts will translate up here, and maybe at some length, maybe some 6-7 innings would be great to see from like a potential ace guy, or maybe number 2, number 3. So I think those are the two main things to look at: is the command and the K numbers for sure, the swing and misses, because he dominated in AAA with those.
I just want to see how the stuff looks. I'm just so excited to see because, we have video of him obviously, but it's tough you don't really see it as much on the minor league broadcast, weird angles and that kind of stuff. So looking forward to seeing it on a major league broadcast, really sitting down and watching this guy. I mean, it's going to be awesome. I just can't wait to watch him. So Daniel, go ahead with what you kind of are looking for from Eddie tomorrow.
I just hope he lights it up, because then it'll just bring a whole bunch of just positive reinforcement to the Marlins, just having him out there lighting it up against a AAA lineup, plus Juan Soto, like Peter said in the chat. But I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Also seeing Josiah Gray, I think it'd probably be the most watched.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I forgot about that.
It's going to be
against Cabrera. That's awesome. That's going to be great. Yeah. Danilo, let's go to you. By the way, Peter, I want your prediction for what Eddie does tomorrow in the chat right now. Put it in the chat right now. I want to see it. Danilo, what are your thoughts on what we see from Eddie tomorrow night?
Honestly, I wanted to throw strikes.
No strikes.
We'll start out, no strikes. If we lose, we lose. If we win, we win. That's fine. But no strikes, don't give up walks. That hurts at the end. Super simple.
Yeah, it's throwing strikes. Want to see the command attacking the zone. Not afraid to go after guys, and he's been pretty aggressive in his pitching all year. So I don't think that'll be an issue. But all right, so here we go. The Nationals are coming to town. About 13 minutes until first pitch. Might be wrapping up a little early here today, but 13 minutes until first pitch. Now 12, and like I said, this is just two teams that are throwing basically AAA rosters, quad A rosters out there, just trying to get to the end of the season. I mean, look, the Nationals. We talked about. I went on my rant about the Cubs last time, and I can go on the same rant for the Nationals. They won the World Series in 2019. It's ridiculous. It's such bullshit. It's such a cop out to the fans to say, Max Scherzer, fuck you, get the fuck out of here, basically. You know what I mean? Like, that's such bullshit. It really pisses me off.
Turner, probably one of the best shortstops in the game. Someone who's still young. It's incredible.
And they packaged both of them. Scherzer. And they packaged both of them and sent them to the defending World Series champions. It's just ridiculous. And I didn't even think they got like the greatest deal in the world. Like, they got two top 100 prospects, but I mean, for Max Scherzer and Trey Turner, like, you should be able to do a little bit better than that. But I mean, and
crazy how much the contract affects the return, man.
Yeah,
I understand, like with the Stanton trade, even though I really do think they should have got a hell of a lot better of a return for the MVP. But dude, like, it's crazy. I know Scherzer's contract was crazy, whatever it was, 7 years, however many million,
and it was
like high 100s. It was like a 200 million. It was in a crazy contract, and just, dude, it's the Dodgers, man. You have to like be calling their bluff and be like, okay, yeah, we know you can afford them. Give us a better return. It's just holy shit. Like, those contracts really affect the return an amount that it shouldn't be.
At this point, you just watch all these other teams, that they're gonna get into this rebuild stage, and you're like, Marlins, son, you've already been this shit for like 5 years, man.
Yeah, I mean,
I just looking at the two lineups today, and
I haven't even looked at the Nationals lineup.
And the only 3 players in all of the 18 that are there, the only 3 that don't have the star that says they don't qualify for ranking and stuff, the only 3 that don't have that star, it means the only 3 that qualify are Juan Soto, Miguel Rojas, and Jazz Chisholm. The rest of them don't qualify.
It's crazy. I mean, I'm looking at some of these. I'm looking at, so Lane Thomas is leading off. Alcides Escobar. Lane Thomas is a prospect they just called up.
I was joking.
Pretty good recently, but Alcides Escobar, Juan Soto, Ryan Zimmerman still in there looking to kill the Marlins. Carter Keyboom, and then I'm going to need some help here. Yadiel Hernandez, Barrera, Tres Barrera, okay, and Luis Garcia, and then Eric Fetty, 5.14 ERA, who I think shut out the Marlins last time they faced it, because of course he did.
The guy who
that was the guy that Alex. That was Alex. That was 100%.
Yeah, Alex Carver puts the jinx on the Marlins. But yeah, I mean, this is a bad baseball team. There's no other way around it. And again, they put out, It's not like they're Tampa. They're in the nation's capital. They're one of the bigger markets in the country. It's ridiculous. I know that
They have their own
maybe
guy. They have like massive. Like they have.
they have their own TV network. Like it's a huge TV deal. It's DC. It's the nation's capital. Like this team shouldn't have to cry poor, and it's just happening way too much in the major leagues today. And now they're leaving Juan Soto out to dry and banking on the fact that he's going to want to extend there. Which why would he want to play there when all of his buddies are gone? The team that just won the World Series 2 years ago, they're 2 years removed from a World Series.
If he tries to leave,
not
Washington,
even 20.
I wouldn't be surprised. Man.
Yeah,
He
they're
already
not
got
even
his
24 months removed from winning the World Series. It's crazy, man. And it's just, it's plaguing baseball. This rebuilding nonsense is a plague on the game of baseball.
I hate it.
It's just horrible. And I saw recently this salary floor talk. I love it. I think it's great.
If they put a floor in, they first have to put in a cap. Also,
yeah, I mean, of course.
If you're gonna floor it, you gotta cap it.
Absolutely. But putting a floor in will force the Marlins, the Rays, the Pirates, so many of these teams to actually field competitive rosters, to spend money on players, to go out and it'll make the league more competitive.
I think there should be a batting average minimum.
Talking about expanding the playoff. Expanding the playoff will make some of these fringe contenders more likely to go for it in the offseason. The Marlins would certainly be one of those teams because they've got the pitching, and if they say, wow, look, there's another playoff spot out there to be had, let's go for it. Maybe they go. That might encourage them to make some of these bigger acquisitions that we're talking about.
Think of it like this: just imagine that pitching rotation next year. What is it going to be? Sandy,
Sixto, Eddie,
Trevor.
Pablo, and Trevor.
I would put Luzardo in there and then Pablo. That's a top 5 pitching rotation in the MLB.
Top 1.
I mean,
top 3 if you really.
Not when they trade Sandy.
Get out.
This is this.
Oh no,
this
that's
is,
Get out. Isaac, get out.
we can talk about that can be a discussion for another time.
That's a pretty big
It's
one.
heresy.
But yeah, obviously I don't think anybody wants that to happen, but you have the rotation to go for it next year, and maybe an added playoff spot or a cap floor or something like that would make them more inclined to. But anyway, let's go around the room now. It is prediction time. We got 7 minutes until first pitch between the Nationals and Marlins. I'm going to look who's on the mound. It's Jesus Luzardo against Eric Fetty. And then who is on the mound for the rest of the series? I'm going to take a look here. I'm going to find it.
Who's pitching
Tomorrow is I think we all know who's pitching tomorrow against Josiah Gray. And then Eliezer and Patrick Corbin, another fairly okay pitching matchup on Thursday before the Reds come right back. Still on the Nationals. Yep, he's been there for a few years now. And a guy that didn't get traded at the deadline. Shocking. So anyway, Noah, I'll start right there, man. I'm going to guess.
I think I know what he's going to go
Let's see. Guess.
You're going to predict that the Marlins sweep the Nationals.
No, I'm not. I'm picking they're going to win 2 of the games. They're going to win tonight, and they're going to win. They're going to win the Edward Cabrera game. I think Patrick Corbin might actually murder us. I just have that feeling.
He went realistic.
All right.
I know
Noah goes with 2 of 3. Isaac, I thought for sure this was a sweet prediction for you, Noah. Isaac, go ahead.
I'll go with 2 out of 3 here. I think Corbin, self-tossing, even though Corbin has not really had the best of seasons, I think Marlins will be comfortable with 2 out of 3, these first 2.
Kevin, go ahead, buddy.
It's hard because I really want to say some sweep, but I'm not going to say it because every time we say it just doesn't end well. Even though last time I predicted sweep, the Marlins did sweep the Cubs. But
if you say it enough times, it's going to be right a couple times. A stuck clock is right
that's
twice a day.
the strat that Noah uses.
A blind
worked
squirrel
great.
find. Sometimes
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Isaac and Noah here. 2 out of 3. Marlins take the Luzardo one and the Eddie one. Even though I think Eliezer could put up a good game, it's just going to be that the run support, man. They just can't get run support for any pitchers at this point on this team. It's going to be one of those nights, man.
It seems like once a series. Obviously it happens to Sandy more often than not, I think. But
they shuffle the pitchers.
Yeah, it feels like once a series there's a game where,
who's the one they don't want to give
somebody pitches lights out and they don't give them any run support. Daniel, go ahead, man.
1 out of 3. It's going to be This one they're losing.
not a
It's
bad
going to be
prediction,
8 in a
maybe.
row. They're going to win the Eddie, and then they're going to start a new streak. I think it's not going to be great for the Marlins. I even wore my good luck jersey, the Pensacola Mullets.
Love that thing,
Had to
man.
get that. Trying to get sponsored by the Blue Wahoos, but
You need to get the crab
1 out of
zillions.
3.
Yeah, Daniel.
I just got it the other day.
Daniel copied my whole flow word for word, bar for bar. I'm going to go with the Marlins taking just 1 of 3 as well. It might be with a little bit of a winky face to try and get the Marlins some good luck because I'm obviously the jinx master. But I just don't see it at this point. They're not playing competitive baseball. And, so it just is what it is at this point. It's just get me through. And I do think they win. I'll go with everybody. I think they win the Eddie start. I think Eddie's going to look pretty good. Like 5 solid innings. I'll say like 5 innings, 3-run ball, 5 strikeouts. So, all right, 3 minutes until game time. I'll let everybody get to their TVs and stuff. For Eli, for Danilo, who joined us earlier, for Noah, for Kevin, for Daniel, for Isaac. I am Ethan.
The elusive
Starter,
Aram.
2022 right here.
Good luck, bobblehead from Jose Urania. We will see you guys all on Friday for the next series preview when the Reds come back to town. So we'll talk to you guys. Go Fish.